Welcome back. My name is Caleb Oliver and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about why you should not drive for Uber Eats. But before we start, just comment the word down below, Uber, because that is the topic for today's video. Alright, let's get started. Let me tell you why you should not drive for Uber Eats. So, here's my story. In early 2019, in the springtime or so, I used to drive for Uber Eats. And I used my earnings to help me pay for a trip to Peru. So, what I would do is, at the beginning of the day, I'd work my regular job at the airport from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then shortly after that 8 p.m. shift ended, I would start my Uber Eats trips. And by the time I got to the location where I needed to be, it was about 9 p.m. So from about 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., I was out there driving and making money. And it's worth it to note, I live in Queens, New York, and I had to drive out to Long Island. Not too far, maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. In my experience, there was more business late at night out in Long Island than there was here in Queens. So that's where I went. And just in case you didn't know, here's how the process of Uber Eats works from the driver's perspective. So, an Uber Eats driver drives around, and then when someone orders food from a restaurant that's near them, the phone rings. It kind of does a little ringing, a little beeping sound. Then the driver can look at the phone. And the driver has about 5 seconds or so. It's 5 or so, I'm not exactly sure how long. But they can look at it, they can either accept it, or they can just let it ring and it will decline and another driver will get it. In that 5 seconds, you can see how long it will take you to get to the location, and it will tell you approximately how much you will make. Of course, you won't fully know these things until you actually take the trip, but based on this little bit of information, you have to make your decision whether you want to accept the call or not. So, here are my top 3 reasons why you should not drive for Uber Eats. We have number 1 first. Number 1 here is low earnings. So working this was about the same as working a minimum wage job. And that's not bad, but I had to work a lot harder to make the same amount of money because my job at the airport is also a minimum wage job. But there was a lot more involved in working for Uber Eats. So consider this. At the airport, I make $117 a day, and this is before taxes. I work for 7.5 hours, and I make $15.60 an hour. So, to do that math, 7.5 hours times the $15.60 equals $117 a day. Also, it's worth noting that I went out 3 to 4 times a week. So when I use the math here, I'm going to use 3 as my number. I didn't go out every night or I would be, that'd be too much work. Way too much work. Now, let's compare that with Uber Eats. And we will even use my best week. So during my best week of working with Uber Eats, I was able to collect a check of $288. So let's do the math here. So, let's look at the Uber Eats money here. I made $288 in 3 days by driving around for 5 hours. So the math on that is $288 divided by the 3 days that I would drive, and that equals $96 per day. And to go a little bit further, $96 divided by the 5 hours, because it would take about 5 hours that I would work driving the roads, that equals $19.20. Now at first that may look good, and that is actually better than the $15.60 I got by working at the airport. However, once I explain the following, you'll see that it's kind of not really worth it. Now based on all the work I had to do to actually get this money, it will show that it would have been easier for me to stand up at work for these extra 15 hours during the week and make overtime at my airport job than it would have been to actually go out and drive and do the Uber Eats. I would have made either the same amount of money or potentially even more, because at a certain point I would have hit overtime pay. So, at first, $19.20 looks like a good deal. It looks better than my $15.60 I make at the airport. But let's look at this a little bit closer. Let's remember that the $288 I made that week was my highest earning. But let's take a more average example. There's another night where I made $194 in one night. So let's do the math there. 194 divided by the 3 nights I would go out, that equals $64.66 per day. Take that $64.66 divided by the 5 hours that I would be out each day, and that equals $12.93. So you see that that is actually less than what I make at work. So this shows one reason why it wasn't really worth it to drive for Uber Eats. And to explain why working with Uber Eats was more difficult than working at the airport job, we need to consider number 2. Number 2 here is time. So consider how much time I had to be on the road out there to make that money. It was 5 hours a night of driving time. And sometimes I'd have to drive around for 30 to 40 minutes with no orders. I had to drive around and wait until the phone rang to actually go and make money. And if it wasn't ringing, I was just sitting and wasting time. Meanwhile, if I was at my regular job, I would be clocked in and I'd be making money at a steady pace. Also, sometimes it took up to 60 minutes for me to make a full delivery. From the time I got the notification, I went to the restaurant. Sometimes the food wasn't ready. I pick up the food, drive to the person's house and drop it off, then try and find another location where restaurants are for Uber Eats. That could take an hour. So if that was like $6 or $7 or even $8 I made in that one delivery, even if I made $10 with a tip in that one delivery, I'm still making less than the $15.60 as I mentioned in the previous example. So that's why working the regular minimum wage job would have been better than working with Uber Eats. I also must add in a few other things that talk about time. So one thing here is there were a few times where I actually got lost because people's houses are hard to find at night. Some of the nicer houses actually didn't have an address. They did not have the address listed on their house. There was no house number. So I'm looking and I'm looking, where's the house? So that was an issue I had. And also, working with some restaurants was a little frustrating. I'll tell a little story here. I remember one night, it was around 2 a.m. or so. I was near the end of my Uber Eats shift. I said, okay, I'll do this one. I'll go home. I'm out on Long Island, and it's like a club or a lounge. So people are in there dancing, music's going, they're having fun. I'm not having fun. I'm tired, and I want to just make this money and go home. So I go in there, I show them my phone that says Uber Eats so that they can prepare the meal. It was like a burger or something. And they said, okay, we'll get it. So I'm sitting there, 5 and 10 minutes pass, and I'm saying, are they ready yet? So I showed them the phone again. Hey, is this ready? I had to show like the chef in the back, and I had to show the bartender based on the setup. And they said, yeah, it's coming, it's coming. So I sit,
and I sit.
Okay, now 20 minutes pass, and they say, let me see the phone again. I show them the phone with the order on it, and they say, oh, that person canceled the order already. They canceled it. So I walked out with a smile on my face. Okay, thank you. But once I left, I was pissed. I got in my car, I slammed the door, and I drove home. I had enough that night, and I was just done. So sometimes these little frustrations here and there are not worth your time being out there. You would be better off working a minimum wage job or some other job that pays you at a steady rate so you don't have to be frustrated with little nonsenses like this. So as I talk about time, I must say you must consider the opportunity cost in order to make the best decision. What else could you have been doing that was better, a better use of your time in this time frame? I recently did a video on opportunity cost, and if you'd like to check it out, just click the card right up here. You can click, you can watch that video, and it will further inform you, because it is so important that you look at the bigger picture and make sure you're making the best decision possible, and opportunity cost helps you make that best decision. And I just want to say, if you're getting any value out of this video, just click the like button down below. Also, click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you'll be notified the moment I post my next video. And just comment the word down below, Uber, because that is what we're talking about today. Uber Eats. Doing things like this really helps my channel, and it helps my content get pushed to a larger audience. So for doing this, I say thank you. Now we have number 3. Number 3 here is car maintenance. So you have to consider the car maintenance, and you have to factor that in the money that you're making. So one big thing here was gas. When I was doing Uber Eats, the first $50 I made each week I automatically put to my gas tank. Whether I actually got that much gas or not, I had to mentally make $50 to basically break even before I can actually profit. So that kind of eats into your profits. Again, you think, oh, he made $288, but you must subtract 50 from that before you can actually see my real earnings. Now, I will also mention it may be better if you do this on the bike. That was not an option for me, but I know people, if they do it on a bike, they either burn less gas or they burn no gas if it's a traditional bike, and they save a lot of money that way. So if you could do that and ride a bike and do Uber Eats in your area, then maybe you will be more successful than I was. Also, you may have to worry about car trouble at night. When I did this, it was late at night, 1, 2, 3 a.m., and you have to maybe worry about getting a flat tire late at night in an area that you're unfamiliar with, and you just don't want to deal with that. But it is something you have to consider while you're out there driving. And you also have to remember that you are putting extra miles on your car, which will then lead to more frequent oil changes, which then leads to more money coming out of your pocket. So, it is so important to consider all this before you go out there and become an Uber Eats driver. So, based on everything I just mentioned, for me, it was not worth it financially to become an Uber Eats driver. However, I will mention some of the pros of actually doing this job. One of the pros or perks of actually being an Uber Eats driver was finding new restaurants. As I drove around, I said, oh, this is a nice restaurant. Oh, I didn't know this was here. So that was cool to do, because without this delivery job, I would have not learned about these restaurants. Another perk to mention is exploring new neighborhoods. I was able to drive through Long Island, and I found some nice big houses and luxury apartments, and it was great because, again, without doing this job, I would have never seen these houses and apartments. One apartment, after I made the delivery, I walked around, and it looked like a luxury hotel. They had a sitting room and a nice library inside, and later on I looked up the rent for that place. It was $3,000 a month. That was real luxury, so that was kind of cool to see. So, another perk to mention that's not financially related is you get to listen to music while you're on the road and you're driving from house to house and restaurant to restaurant. You can jam to your favorite tunes. So that was cool. I really enjoyed that perk of working with Uber Eats. Overall, I do not think you should drive for Uber Eats if you are looking for a long-term side hustle to put money in your pocket. I think it would be a good opportunity to try just to see if you like it, but I cannot recommend it long term. However, if you're just looking to make a quick buck, maybe I need $50 by the end of the night, or I need $100 by the end of the weekend, then this may be for you. If you just need some quick money, or like I said at the top of this video, I used the earnings I made from Uber Eats to actually fund, partially, my trip to Peru. So if you need money in a pinch like that, this is where I would suggest Uber Eats. But again, based on everything I mentioned earlier, as a long-term side hustle, it just isn't financially feasible. However, I will say things may be different now because some people are still stuck at home in quarantine. So there may be more demand for Uber drivers, so it may work out better for you. If you want to try being an Uber Eats driver in your specific location, you may be more successful than I was. So, as based on my experiences, those are my reasons why I do not suggest you drive for Uber Eats. Now, before you click out of this video, it's much appreciated if you just click the like button down below. Also, click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll be notified the moment I post my next video. And we're just going to do a question of the day here, so just answer this down in the comment section below. Would you try driving for Uber Eats in your area? Just let me know down below. We can start a little conversation down there, and I'll be sure to leave a heart next to your comment and get right back to you as soon as I see it. Alright, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. cootie, corn shot, guinea pig. I don't want any bone in my piece.
Well, not here in Peru.
What do you think?
I'm sure that this is mixed wrap.
It's good. It almost tastes like seafood.
I don't know what.
I don't know what that it's good. I like it.
Okay.
You gotta try it when you come to Peru. It's just food, people. Don't worry. Okay.